Hello everyone, my name is Leah Anderson and my presentation is going to be over World Englishes. I want to start out by stating my two open-ended questions that you guys will be answering in the Dropbox discussion. The first one is, do you think World Englishes affects students in the classroom? The second one is, how can we incorporate World Englishes into our schools and classrooms? And these, I hope that my PowerPoint that you'll be able to look at and my video will help you in answering these questions. So we're going to start out by talking about the term World Englishes. When I thought of this term, I have never really thought about Englishes being in a plural sense with the ES on the end. But it says the term World Englishes refers to the differences in the English language that emerge as it is used in various contexts across the world. Scholars of World Englishes identify the varieties of English used in different social linguistic contexts and analyzing their history, background, function, and influence. It goes on to say in my PowerPoint, after doing my research, I thought this was really went along with World Englishes and helped me understand what it really was. It says languages develop to fulfill the needs of the societies that use them. That's just like, I feel like the language that Southern people use is the language that is familiar in their society and what is comfortable to them and what makes sense to them. Someone in the North may not say y'all or ain't, but we do here in the South. And it goes on to say, because societies contain a diverse range of social needs, and because these needs can differ across cultures and geographies, multiple varieties of English language exist. This includes American English, British English, Australian English, Canadian English, Indian English, and so on. So that's just a few examples of the different kinds of Englishes in the world. Another little definition that kind of sums all that up in simpler terms is World English. It is the concept of English language as a global means of communication in numerous dialects. The movement towards an international standard for the language, and it is also referred to Global English, World English, Common English, Continental English, or General English. I have provided a video on World Englishes, and I actually watched this video on YouTube before I started creating my PowerPoint and reading the book. And this guy he's a professor and he does a great job of defining World Englishes, how it come to be, the meaning of it, examples of it that we may not think of, but we may see in our everyday life. So I encourage you to watch this video, and it is very helpful in understanding the true meaning of World Englishes. And it is the link. All you have to do is click on the link. It has a little globe beside of it, and it should pop up. Next, I did a lot of research, and when I was doing research on World Englishes, WE popped up, and I thought, why does it keep saying we? And then I understood that they have it abbreviated WE for World Englishes. So it says we, WE, capital WE, is a term that is well accepted by all three circles of English, and especially the outer circle countries. And this will make more sense when we get to our next few slides about what those outer and inner circles are. It says we functions generally as an umbrella term for all the varieties of English worldwide. And goes on to say the nativist or indigenous varieties of English are more linguistic interests of the supporters of the we paradigm. And then the last one on this slide is, it is strongly associated with, and I tried to look up how to say this word and I always butcher it, so I'm just going to spell it. It is K-A-C-H-R-U. K-Crew, that's kind of what I said, but I know that's not right, so I'll just spell it for you guys. Again, that is K-A-C-H-R-U. And other scholars working in a World English's Paragon. Okay. So there are 3 classifications of English. The first one is English as a national language. The second one is English as a second language, and we have been learning a lot about how we acquire second languages and the debate over, can you acquire a second language as you do your first language, or does the second language have to be learned? So that should all be very familiar to us. And the third one is English as a foreign language. So it goes on to say, now we're going to talk about some dates. This is in a lot of research that I've done, and this is dates between 1965 and 1884. 1965 is when this is that same name again, K-A-C-H-R-U, publishes his first journal article, and it is entitled The Indianness of Indian English. In that article, he lays the theoretical groundwork for the idea of world Englishes by interpreting how English is nativized in India, and it is delineating some of its unique sociological and cultural aspects and showing that Indian English is a unique variety of English which is neither an American nor British English. And I wanted to state something important from 1984, and that is when K-Crew formally introduces the term World Englishes at the Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages, and that is abbreviated TESOL, which stands for Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages. And this was a conference along with the global profile of English. Later, he proposes the 3 concentric circles model, and these are both papers are subsequently published. So, and the next slide that you guys will be seeing is a diagram of the 3 circles of English. You have your inner circle, your outer circle, and your expanding circle. So, let's look right here. The inner circle, I have information about all of this broken down, and I wanted to make sure I was saying the right thing. The inner circle refers to the countries where English is used as the primary language, such as the USA, Britain, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. And that circle, when you look at it on the graph here, it looks kind of a little bit tan. The next circle outside of the inner circle is the outer circle. So the outer circle is surrounding the inner circle. And the outer circle, or you could call it the middle circle, denotes those countries where English usage has some colonial history. This includes nations such as India, Kenya, Nigeria, the Philippines, and a few more countries there that's stated. So that is the outer circle, and this has 150 to 300 million speakers. I just thought that was unbelievable. 150 to 300 million speakers. And I forgot to tell you guys that the inner circle includes 380 million speakers. So, well, first we have the inner circle. Then we go to the outer circle, and our last circle of this diagram, which is green, you'll be able to see it when you look at my PowerPoint, and it is the expanding circle. The expanding circle includes countries where English is spoken, but where it does not necessarily have a colonial history or primary/official language status. This includes nations such as China, Japan, South Korea, Egypt, Nepal, Indonesia, Israel, Korea, Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, and one more. And it says that any country where English is regularly spoken, even in limited contexts for international business, that does not fall under the first two categories is considered to be in the expanding circle. And the expanding circle has up to 1 billion speakers. I just thought that was kind of confusing because, it says that it's where English is spoken, but where it does not necessarily have a colonial history or primary official language. And I think maybe that's where, people are moving in and out, and all different kinds of languages are presented and used in that country. So that is the 3 circles of K-Crew's 3 circles of English. And once again, I'm sorry because I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but I'm doing my best. So that is very important when it comes to world Englishes, is knowing this diagram and the 3 circles of English. I'm going to have to get a drink. So after we have the 3 circles of English, we're going to go on to talk about how you could incorporate world Englishes into the classroom. I looked up some research over Matsuda, and they offer 5 principles that can guide teachers to incorporate world Englishes in a writing classroom. And when I was doing this research, I thought, sometimes we don't always use writing enough in the classroom, and especially for ESL students, it's harder for them for teachers to come up with writing activities that is going to meet their needs as well. So the first one, the principle that they mention, is to teach the dominant language forms and functions. The second is teach the non-dominant language forms and functions. The third is to teach the boundary between what works and what does not. The next one is teach the principles and strategies of discourse negotiation. And the last principle says to teach the risk involved in using deviational features. So those are just the 5 principles that can guide teachers to incorporate world Englishes. Next, I have some activities for ESL students when using world Englishes. And I'm going to read to you, of course, what I have looked up, but I also had another activity that you could use world Englishes in, and I will talk about that after I get finished reading this to you guys. It says, one way to expose students to various Englishes in the classroom is to bring speakers of multiple varieties. For example, the JET program, which currently recruits mostly from the inner circle, and once again, the inner circle was countries where English is used as a primary language, such as the USA, Britain, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. So let me go back here. So that's the inner circle where English is the primary language. It says could begin recruiting fluent speakers of English from other parts of the world. Alternatively, teachers could invite international visitors and residents in the community to the class. Such interrogation not only creates opportunities for students to interact in English, which is hard to accomplish in EFL countries, but also shows that being an effective EIL user does not require being an NS. It is also likely to have positive influences on students' abilities to comprehend world Englishes because English users need to become familiar varieties easier to understand. So, getting people to come into your classroom, I know that is not realistic to us all, that we will all not be able to get those international visitors into the classroom. But this semester, I'm working with Dr. Beach. I'm his second GA. He got a grant, and so I got to become his second GA, and we are working in the Vision Lab, which is dealing with virtual reality using the 360 headsets. And one thing that I thought would be great was if we could have the opportunity to go out and video a teacher, an international teacher, and her classroom or his classroom, and video that and be able to bring that back so that students could, or if teachers have the VR software and all the technology that they need in the classroom, they could display these videos and the children would have the opportunity to put this 3D headset on and be able to see the whole classroom, the teacher be able to hear them, and it would give them that experience without having to pay a lot of money for someone to come to our classrooms, to our schools that's from a different state, country, all that. So I think that's one good thing about the virtual reality, because right now we have videos of teachers in classrooms, but they're from Cookeville, so it's not anything different to us. And right now the VR is just used to be able to let college students come in and see the classrooms, see teachers, see how the students can be disruptive and how they act, and giving them that experience before they actually enter the classroom. But we're hoping to get, we're hoping to go out and video just maybe like field trips that students maybe not be able to go on all these field trips, but they can come into the lab and they can look and put the headset on and actually feel like they are a part of what they're looking at. So I just thought that would be another great way for students to get to view World Englishes. An additional activity that I have mentioned here is that if face-to-face interactions are not possible, which I was just talking about, sometimes that would be maybe very difficult, or, it's just, that would just consider a lot of setting up and timing and planning. It says teachers can introduce different varieties of English through email exchanges, projects that require students to visit websites and various Englishes. There's all kinds of videos of these international people just talking and letting them know that their language is still English, but how different it can be from where you live and what you speak. And it says, or by showing movies and video clips of World English speakers. I know that some schools don't allow teachers to play movies or anything like that in their classroom, but if the movie is educational and has a meaningful purpose, I think that we would be able to talk to those principals and show them, hey, we're showing this video to let our students see how other English speakers speak English, but how different it can be from what we speak. And just a recap, I wanted to go over one more time that the term World Englishes refers to the differences in the English language that emerge as it is used in various contexts across the world. And one more thing. It says that the English language is now spoken in more than 100 countries. I just think it's crazy how, many English speakers there actually are in our country. It says, World English has been defined as the phase in the history of English language. This phase has witnessed the transformation of English from the mother tongue of a handful of nations to a language being used by far more speakers in non-mother tongue settings. The changes that have accompanied this spread, the multiplicity of varieties, results from the faulty and imperfect learning of the non-mother tongue speakers, but from the nature of this process, micro-acquisition, language spread and change, says Griffler in the book World English. So there's all kinds of books out there that we can get and read about World Englishes. That was just, and another fun thing that I found, examples of World Englishes. It says that Even when you go into airports, it says in the public usage of international airports, where on signboards English is often twined with other languages, and announcements are commonly in English or are multilingual, including English. Even in newspapers, it says English language broadsheet newspapers and magazine style periodicals in which the texts are tightly edited. So those are just a few examples that I wanted to tell you. And before closing this presentation, I just wanted to state my 2 open-ended questions that we will have time to reflect on in our discussion. And the first one is, do you think World Englishes affect students in the classroom? And how can we incorporate World Englishes into our schools and classrooms? I hope that you enjoyed this presentation and was able to take away the term World Englishes and now have a better understanding of what it is. And also, I hope you take the chance to watch the video I have provided over World Englishes. It's very informative and I think you'll really enjoy it. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you.